Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pause, Please. We're talking all things midlife, menopause, and the mundane. We appreciate you staying with us and listening in. Dana is going to kick us off here with our topic of discussion.
Thanks, Sheila. And I'll go ahead and popcorn it over to Rachel. I'm just kidding. So we touched on it a little bit last week when we were talking about our favorite corporate phrases and what they meant. And I thought, since we're all in midlife, some of it mundane, of course, and we have a little bit of work life experience, I imagine that we aren't the only people out there, stories to share and frustrations to share. So I thought maybe we could touch on that. I want to kind of keep it around midlife. That being said, I think maybe if you guys are comfortable, we could we've touched on it a little bit, just share where we're at in our professional life. I consider myself a professional now. I'm in my mid 40s. I worked for a long time. I am a professional. Of what to be determined, but I feel like a professional. I have definitely evolved. I think about how the types of jobs I had in my 20s and then morphing into my 30s and 40s. I do remember kind of a tangent that I think sometimes as we age, we think like our definition of age and old and mature and what that means sort of changes. And I remember being young and going from 29 to 30, and everybody's like, 30 is so great. You're so mature because you're usually, growing your family and you've kind of settled and you've been married for a while. Anyways, my 30s were awful, terrible. I don't want to ever relive them again. My 40s have been fantastic.
Brava,
And that
brava, girl.
Thank you. And some of that actually does include maturing and growing in my professional self. So that's kind of how I came to this. I did not go to college. I did not have a degree. I just sort of fell into working, and I've always, I think, had pretty good jobs. I've landed maybe stereotypically in administrative jobs for a long time. And then a shift happened. I was working in healthcare and I was working just your typical front desk person making appointments. I'd worked in every clinic I feel like imaginable. And I was feeling a little stuck. I was feeling like, gosh, I know how to do all these things. What can I do? And so I reached out within my hospital and I got a mentor who encouraged me to go back to school and start to network, not just find mentors, but just network with other colleagues, people my own age, people that had different degrees, things like that. And I think for me, that really started to change my perspective. I also worked with a lot of, I think, really great professional, strong women who had families, and some were going back to school and some had already gone to school. And it just is I feel like when you get in a part of life and you're around people who are in a similar stage, you don't necessarily have to be best friends with them, but when you're going to work every day and you're working alongside other people that are in a familiar stage of life, I think it helps. So that's to me really when I grew in my profession, and that's when I decided to go back to school to earn my degree because I knew pretty quickly that I was gaining a lot of work experience, but it wasn't going to get me very far because everything says must have a degree in XYZ to be a boss, be a leader, or be a director, or whatever. So that's what I did until I made a huge life change and I moved to Texas and I didn't work in healthcare anymore and I took a job in higher education. So now I still work more on the administrative side, but I work in higher education. So that has been different. It's much slower paced than I was used to. So it took me a little while to get used to that, but I'm enjoying it. I really am. So that is kind of where I'm at. I think that when we say administrative, I'm not an administrative assistant. Every corporation has a different type of lingo, but more in that leadership role, climbing up the ladder is kind of where I'm at and what I want to do. And with that has come some challenges, but we can touch on that in a minute.
So for me, kind of similar. I mean, as far as the whole work algorithm. So I got my degree kind of during my quote unquote first profession career, something I didn't really know what I was doing. I just took a job at a credit union as a part-time teller. And I was like, okay, I can count money. I can, send money back and forth through the little tube. That actually, they kind of helped me through because I was working full time, going to school part time, got my degree in 3 years because I had already done like the first 2 years of community college. So I was able to go to school at night and then obtain my degree along with raising a small child and being married. So it was just a lot of life going on during my first career path, you should say. So that really opened up a lot of doors for me as far as what I thought I wanted to do. I knew I was going to do something in some kind of management role. So I've been lucky to have that kind of experience from the very beginning, I would say. Because even in high school, having positions, part-time retail, I was always kind of given a you're in charge kind of leadership role, which just always seemed very natural to me. Fast forward, my next career position was actually in life insurance. Again, didn't know anything about it. Started from the bottom as a data entry sales associate, worked my way up the ladder and got to the level of a director where I was told and kind of promised a number of times that eventually would slide into a VP level. When that didn't happen, it was kind of a slap in the face just because a newbie had come in fresh out of college, was in the marketing department, and pretty much just kind of got a lot of the exposure that I was promised to get and making those next steps. So the position I'm in, it's not necessarily a management position. However, like I don't have that title, but I get looked upon in that role when my boss is out. Again, it just comes natural to me. I just kind of take over. I don't mean to, but sometimes I do. In this scenario, I kind of did because I needed to take control of the team and ensure that what we were doing is accurate and what the higher ups wanted. I am project management. I don't have a project manager title, but the experience that I received with the insurance company and they kind of used me as a jack of all trades working up the ladder. So I got exposed to different areas from finance to customer service to IT to sales, marketing, etc. So I was fortunate and I did have a lot of good mentors while I was there. And so I kind of bring that with me moving forward. And I'm currently on a board where I am serving as a mentorship chair, trying to also bridge that gap because we are in our middle age where we know our baby boomer generation is about to retire, but we also have the younger Gen Y, Z, whatever you're calling them nowadays, coming in. And so I see our group as kind of like that middle ground. We want to get the knowledge of the people exiting the workforce, but we also need to maintain and pass that down to the next generation. So that's kind of where I find myself right now. I'm trying to lean into that a little more and possibly open up a few more doors for myself. But it's a little bit challenging. And I think we'll kind of dive into like what our different industries are and why that might be a challenge for myself. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Project management, I like it.
I got my degree thinking that I would move towards a career with public relations and marketing. Early on, I did get a gig that I found myself working with a lot of women in leadership positions. And in fact, one of the women who I was lucky enough to work with was the president of the company. And that really made me think how important it was to have somebody in that kind of a role. And so I aspired to just do better and to think that, wow, that's pretty amazing that a woman could be in such a role. Over the years, I've been working in different industries, nonprofits to healthcare, also found myself working at a logistics company. And now, along with Dana, in higher ed. Never dawned on me that I would be in a position like this. And so my most recent position is as an admin assistant to somebody who has a leadership role at the university. I always joke, I hope to know what I'm going to become when I grow up, and I feel like I haven't grown up yet. But certainly over the years, I think I've learned to enhance what I know and to push myself to learn some things that I didn't think I needed. And now I feel compelled to. I'm not saying that I want to be the CEO of a certain company, but at this age, I just want to know that what I do for a living can make a difference. And as corny and cheesy as that sounds, That's really where I am at the moment.
Bravo, Sheila. I have been stumbling over something really similar. Putting out the effort and holding down a job and having a family, that's hard work, but also giving yourself to your job is also hard work. And now we are at this place where I'm not just working to survive anymore. And there was a time where that's all I was doing. Was working for a paycheck, pay a bill to survive. And I have reflected the same on people that poured into me when I didn't even ask for it. They just saw something and poured it into me. And when I reflect and think about that, that is who I want to be. That's the mark that I want to leave. I don't want to ever forget the people that made a difference in my life, the ones that I still am in touch with, the ones maybe I'm not in touch with anymore, maybe the ones that don't even know. I'm really liking that place in my career or my profession. And I hope that I can continue to thrive in a place like that. And if that's not where I am right now, that I can grow into a position or find another position where I think the word I would choose is impact others. But at the same time, I don't know everything. I have my experience and my walk, and that's mine, which is different than yours, Sheila, and it's different than yours, Rachel. And I love hearing about it because we can talk and bounce ideas off each other. And I have this experience right now where I have some staff I work with on my team who are new, they're fresh out of college. And that has been very refreshing and very eye-opening. A really good reminder that this is an evolution. Our professional career is an evolution. And what we know when we first start is very different than what we have to give when we retire, right?
Rachel and I are both
This
bobbing our heads
Yes,
in
yes,
unison, in agreement.
this is really great. And something that I always find interesting is like job titles and what they mean, right? What they mean within an organization, what they mean in different industries. And I was talking to somebody, I actually have had the luxury of having, I guess it's a professional coach. I don't know. I signed up for a mentorship program, and it's this coaching program through my organization. And I've been working with this person for about 6 months. And, she said something to me, Rachel, about project management and things. And I've never thought of anything that I did in a project management mindset. And she kind of sat me down and she said, well, project management is a really wide scope. And so I have kind of been like, oh, I just do admin. It's not that important. Nothing's a big deal. But as I was kind of walking through projects that I was doing or trying to do, she was helping me see a bigger picture. Like it's not just an IT thing, or project management isn't just a industry standard. It can happen within all industries. So if anybody thinks, oh, I'm just an administrative assistant or a program manager or a associate, whatever, if you are helping with projects, you are also a project manager. You're
Yep.
welcome. I now have a college degree, so I can say that.
Well, I think a conversation you and I had initially, I just assumed you were in a project management status because of everything that you were explaining to me. And I'm like, but Dana, that's what you are. You're exactly
Yeah.
what I am.
I just didn't, my title doesn't have that in it, so I just don't assume that's what I do. So as I've entered midlife, I realize what I know, and I am very confident in what I know, maybe a little too much. I also know that I don't know things, but I am really comfortable with the things that I know. And I like that. And I mean that in a respectful way. And I'm trying to check myself to make sure that I come across it in a respectful way of the things that I know. But you know what? We are always learning. And I have alluded to this several times. In my current role, I have been challenged. I have been challenged by things I have never been challenged by before. And it has stretched me so much. I'm still not sure what the purpose is, but it made me think. What I really had to do is kind of reevaluate how I perceive things and see a situation and react to it professionally. My initial response, I'm a very emotionally driven person, so I really had to work on that. So I'm going to share some things that I do, and I thought maybe you guys could share some things, like just some little tricks of the trade, right? One of them is I have a colleague who is a very verbal processor. They like to talk about things. They don't like to do them over email or messaging. They need to like be in your face and talk to you. And I'm kind of like, I like my space. So I've had to learn to interact with that and set some boundaries. So one of the things I realized was it's also okay to say when they pop in going 1,000 miles an hour, it's okay for me to say, typing away, hey, I'm working on something right now. Is this emergent or can we follow up in 30 minutes? And that is hard for me because I want to have an open door policy and I want to be able to engage with everybody, but I can't. I've also had to set that boundary because I don't want to let that person know that everything that they bring to me is more important than something that I'm doing or working on with somebody else. So that's a little something that has been tricky for me. And I think I finally mastered it for myself. I don't know how it's being received, but at least for myself, I finally caught myself and I've been able to say, yes, let's talk about that. Do you have time this afternoon or whenever?
Put a pin in it.
That touches on a couple of things that I strive for is to take ownership of your time because it's valuable just as much as the person who's asking something of you, and also to right in setting boundaries. And the other is to make certain that both parties agree on the timeline because like you said, okay, so it's important, but what does that mean? We really need to define it because we can't at
Right.
this point have muddied conversations. If you do need something, when do you need it? Where do you need it? Why do you need it? All those things, right? So I also like that idea.
I'm at a work from home person, so I don't have that situation anymore. But I mean, all of my stuff comes through email or through Teams. So I will be working on something, and then all of a sudden, a Teams message pops up from someone who needed something. And of course, they're out on the floor trying to do something. So I quickly glance at it, and then depending on the situation, and there's this one person who is out in California who has found me. And every time a situation comes up, he'll message me. And I'm like, be right with you, because I know he's sitting there waiting at his computer, waiting for my
Mhm.
response. And I guess not that it's a bad thing, but I used to just be able to just reply immediately, like, oh, hey, what's up? What do you need? I don't have that time anymore. So sometimes I'm like, can I get back at you? Sometimes I'll forget. I mean, I just do. And I'll
Yeah.
follow up the
Yeah.
next day.
That's what's hard with teams is it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
Um, I have that problem too. I think that what I am working on, and Sheila, you hit on it, is setting boundaries and expectations, not only for myself, but those around me. Because I want to be a good steward of my organization's time and of my own time. And I'm finding that I think it just depends on the group of people that you're working with, on your colleagues. There's some where I think when everybody is in the same place, operating at the same level, and you guys really get each other, like I've worked on teams with that, where it's easy to pop in, it's easy to say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" or "I need you on this right now," and you just kind of get each other. But then sometimes you're with people like you, Rachel, who are all over the country or just operate differently, or your jobs are so different, but you're still part of the same team that it's hard to gauge what's important. I know for me, a big shift for me has been things are not emergent in higher education. That's not true. I don't work, there are things that could be emergent. There are things that could not be going well for students that would definitely be emergent. But the departments that I have worked in, nothing is emergent. Nothing is ever on fire. And I come from a background, right, from healthcare, or probably you, Rachel, in IT, where you had these deadlines. And you, Sheila, as well, in your previous role, you were mentioning where if you don't get something in and get it off to someplace else, that is emergent. Or if you can get a patient in, that's sort of emergent. I might come across a little lackadaisical because people will be like, oh my gosh, this is so important. And I'm like, is anybody dying? I think we can wait. We can wait. We can pump the brakes on this. They do not think I'm funny when I say that, but that is the truth. Wait a minute. Let's take a beat. Let's take a breath. And that has caused me to also really read my emails and really be thoughtful and mindful when I respond back to them and not respond immediately, not because I want to start a trend or I'm lazy, but today might be a day where I can respond to everything, but tomorrow might be a day where I'm super busy. So I want to, also, again, for my own time and everybody else's, just kind of set a standard.
I think your response comes from a place of maturity and also experience in your jobs, right? So you can make that assessment and it feels comfortable, whereas other people may not have that advantage. Also, we all work with a variety of people, but where my current job involves, not only working on projects with peers, but also people who are in more leadership roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still working on this, but identifying if I'm placing more importance on a particular assignment because of the person who is requesting it, or if because indeed it is something that's emergent. So
Mm-hmm.
I I'm still learning to wrap my head around that.
What do you mean by that? So something, say, from a president level versus your peer?
Right. If I've got a coworker who's asking me something, who is asking me to deliver on something, as opposed to somebody higher up, let's say my boss, am I giving more importance to finish the task that my boss asked me because of who he is? Or is it really at the top of the to-do list for me for that particular day?
I'm in the same headspace as you, Sheila, actually. And for me, I want to do the priority of the task, not the person that sent it to me. And something that somebody taught me a long time ago when I was really struggling on just getting anything done in a timely manner, she kind of gave me some phrases to say to people, whether in person or not, which is, yes, let me get back to you when I'm at my desk and I can write down that you can ask the timeline or the time frame and kind of gauge, what their ask is and what, like you said, what their importance is. And then you can say, sure, no problem. I'm working on this project right now, and then I will get to yours. Can I get it to you by the end of the week or whatever? I think that's a respectful, professional way to respond.
I think for me, my setting's just a little different. So I am in a metals industry. I don't know if I've mentioned that, but my president, who is very open, and I've actually had the opportunity to meet a few times. But when things do come down for his requests, and everybody knows, for whatever you have aside, his stuff comes first. I've been in those situations where I'm so far into a project and I'm just about done, not only here, but even in the previous industry. It always seems like top tier. This is what they want. They're asking for it. They want it ASAP. Push everything else aside. I don't care if you're almost done. You've got like 30 minutes left on that other project. Push it aside.
Sure.
And so it does get a little
Yeah. I mean,
frustrating,
there's
but
there's always going to be times like that.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen very often. But I do find it sometimes. I was like, dang, if I could have just finished that one, I would have been something else off my plate.
Rachel, you're fully remote. And Sheila and I typically work in the office. Is there anything you do to kind of break up your day or suggestions that you've heard? Because some days can be a lot. I mean, some days we are just chasing our tails, or some days we have, big functions happening or whatever it is. Is there anything that you guys do to kind of help the mundane, like I said? Or, if it gets too much, because part of midlife and menopause is that some days are just rough. Sometimes we're hot, or sometimes we're crabby, or people rub you the wrong way, or sometimes, something
All of the
happened at home,
above.
or you didn't sleep well, right? So we kind of have to shift a little bit and change that. I know for me, when I work in the office, I can tell when I have spent 7 hours at my desk as opposed to days when I can get up, take a break, remove myself from the office, walk around the block or walk down the street or do something. That makes a big difference for me.
Yep.
Yeah, and along with that, Rachel, do you feel since you are remote that you have to be tied to your laptop, tied to your phone? Because that's how you all essentially talk with each other. You don't pop into somebody's office and have a chat about what's needed.
Yeah, so I'm yes and no to both scenarios. So I was in an office setting for over 15 years. I mean, actually 20 plus. COVID happened, of course, everybody went home. And so that was my first exposure because the entire time I was in an office, like, man, I wish I could work from home. COVID happened. I'm like, man, I need to get back to the office. I don't have any people here. And now I'm so accustomed to it that I love it. So that when I do go into an office, I forget how to act sometimes, right? I forget you need to turn that phone off, put it on silent. Because guess what?
Oh,
Oh,
that's
thank
so
you.
Ding, ding, ding,
Bless
ding.
you.
We've been fortunate enough to actually go into the office as a group because my team is spread out throughout the US. had a couple of opportunities to go into corporate and actually just spend the week together. And it just reminds me, we don't get any work done because guess what? We're all together and we're all chatting and we're catching up on everything. And I'm like, yo, we got a list of things to do. I can see you're over there just kind of giggling around with each, which is great because we don't get to see each other in person. But when we are together, nothing gets done. And then I come home and then I've got a pile of stuff because I let it get a week behind. And then when I do travel, I don't feel like I get as much accomplished because I'm getting the same amount of work regardless if I'm here or there. It's just the amount of tension that I put into it. I do so much better when I'm isolated by myself now. I never thought I would say that. And I do miss people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I will advise, if you are a full-time remote employee, yes, you need to take your lunch hour. You need to take your 15 minutes of just getting outside, getting some air. If it's nice out, yes, take that walk, even if it's around the block. I'm lucky enough to be, a couple of blocks away from a nice park that has a track. If it's a really nice day, I love going to the track, getting a couple of laps in, gets my exercise in, I get my vitamin D, all of the above, the good things that you need in your life, especially at this age. And then in the afternoon, I found myself with that energy lull coming in, that 2, 3 o'clock afternoon, like, oh, I need something. I've discovered, if I get that walk in or just step outside for just even 5 minutes, it helps so much. You come back, you're energized. But I am very bad about, because I do have Teams and email on my phone, and I will check it even when I'm on break, even when I'm at lunch. Not to be intentional about it, but see, it's on my watch as well, so it'll ding.
Girl, you need to turn that off. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
change your settings. I don't get anything because, again, I work in a different industry. Nothing is that important that's
Yeah.
going to take me away from my family after hours. During the day, yes, absolutely 100%. But I will admit that I am pretty sure I am the single-handed reason when I worked with Sheila that she got moved away from me. And let me just tell you, that was my childhood in school. I was always getting moved away from my
People
friends
talk
because I
her.
was too chatty.
I
So
I love
you
her.
were the one at the front of the teacher's desk because you
Mhm.
wouldn't
Yep,
stop.
yep, that was me. Yes, ma'am.
Well, there was one day that Dana quite literally had one of those signs that says, "Don't bother me because I will talk to you and spend the entire day with you instead of focusing on my work." It was a riot.
Oh my gosh. I can't even, I'm just gonna say, I don't know what that office was like before Sheila and I got there. They just must not have talked about anything because I got a lot to talk about when I get to work every day. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You know what I've learned over the years? Okay, so we're talking about making certain that we take breaks, or do we take breaks away from our desk and our work? And more so lately, I make it a priority to disconnect midday because if I don't, my head is going to explode. So it's important
Yeah.
that we keep ourselves healthy in that respect. And
Mhm.
what goes along with that is our relationship with our coworkers. I used to have several jobs where I didn't see my coworkers after hours. We weren't social. We went to work,
Mhm.
we did our thing, got along, and then we went home, and that was it.
Mhm.
And it's nice. It's nice to socialize with people because I think it builds camaraderie and we work a whole lot better. And lately, that's been a big bonus in my work life.
Well, I'm jealous. I don't have that in my work life right now. And it's when you've had it, like you said, Sheila, it's such a gift. And when you don't, sometimes it makes, I think that for me, it just makes the job kind of heavy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, right? You don't have to be friends with the people that you work with. But when you can socialize like that and like disconnect, keep your job aside, but still enjoy the company of other people, it does it changes the dynamics when y'all are together in
Oh
work.
Sure.
yeah, that's a bonus. That's a bonus. So
I've
what other
established some great friendships that way. I mean,
hmm
Yeah.
I think I've done that since my early 20s. So I've always made sure that, hey, you seem like a cool person. We should do something after work, outside of hours. And then I had the one couple, we would get together, and they're married now, but me and the guy, because we were talking IT talk, we'd still be talking IT, and his wife was like, "Will y'all shut up about work? This is not work time." But that was just our normal camaraderie. So, I mean, that's what we communicated on. And now we're like looking at each other like, what do we talk about now? But yeah, I think you do establish some great friendships, especially with your colleagues. So always a good takeaway.
So I've been kind of really paying attention to myself and how I engage with other people and more of like my philosophy or my outlook on my job and leadership and like what that means. And so I found a little post here I wanted to share with you guys. Just let me know what you think. And it's just 10 habits that might save you a little bit of time in the week for when things get really stressful. And I can see this happening in my life. One habit is to schedule your priorities before your inbox decides them. And so to me, that means what I actually do is I start my day and I make a list. Like I make a pen and paper and I make a list. I know that's old school, but I'm old people. I don't use all the things that I should be using in my inbox and my Outlook. I'm sorry, I just don't. But that really helps me. And then kind of like you said, what do I respond to immediately? Who do I respond to immediately? Who can I say, "Oh, let me get back to you." In fact, there is something that I haven't done for 2 days that I keep forgetting to do. I'm remembering it right this second because I never write it down. I'm like, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow." Decline meetings where your presence isn't required. If I could do that, oh my gosh. I will say this department that I work in has so many meetings. I don't know how some people get any work done because they are in meetings all day long,
I like that one. I mean, how productive are we going to be if they don't really
right?
need all of
Yep.
us?
And some things that I have seen, like recommendations from other professionals, are it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask if you get a meeting invite and you're sort of wondering, gosh, I wonder if I should be there. Ask a colleague, ask your supervisor, ask the person that sent it to you, hey, can I get a little bit more information? They don't know. I mean, maybe you have something else scheduled at that time, or maybe you need to be for something else, or maybe a colleague of yours is going, only one of you needs to go. This habit says batch similar tasks instead of context, switching all day. So kind of if you have to do like, I don't know, I actually used to do this when I worked in healthcare. I actually did it when I worked at my other office as well. There was a certain task that I had to do like once a week or once a month. I would pick one day a week instead of like doing them a little bit every day. And then I would do them all on a certain day just so I could get them all done. When I worked in healthcare, I had to make like reminder phone calls, but I would do them at the same time every day. So I wouldn't get to work and start and like make two phone calls and then I get distracted and then I'd have to do something else and then I couldn't remember where I left off. Like I would always do it at the same time every day.
I like that one.
I need to work on this one. Respond once with clarity instead of 5 reactive replies. I'm not good at that.
Well, I think you may be good at that. My comment is that the person on the other end does not get the big picture. And that's the reason why you have the follow-up 5 emails to clarify.
That's fair. That's respect. Well, this is
Hold
interesting. This
on,
kind of
but to that point, and I say this from my experience because I work in a very male-dominated industry. Are your recipients males? Because I've discovered that I have to sometimes do that clarification 5 different times in reference back to what we said last week, back in reference to the previous email or per my previous email. And sometimes I've even just attached that previous email to the attachments. Did you read it?
Yeah, mine just depends. Sometimes I am the one that's reactive. I'm like, shoot, I shouldn't have said that. Let me follow up with that and follow it. So sometimes it's the opposite. It just kind of depends on the situation. But I have had female colleagues as well that have had a hard time understanding bullet points. So, to each their own. Set response windows instead of being constantly available, Rachel. maybe at 10 past every hour, you respond to your messages or whatever. Who does that 10 past the hour? Every hour you respond to a message, instead of
Yeah.
having to check your teams and do all that. And I work with people who, now I do this as well, but I don't call people out on it. I work with people who will say, "Oh, I sent Dana a Teams message. I saw she read it, but she hasn't responded yet." So now I'm like, "Oh, great. Now I can't read my messages. I'm really going to forget to do stuff because if I don't reply right away, like I'm reading it to see is this urgent? And if it's not, I'll come back to it when I'm finished what I'm doing." How are your days, you guys? I've heard people say this. I've never needed to do this, but having like daily focus time, like blocking time on your calendar, or your schedule, daily or weekly, where you're not interrupted. I personally haven't needed to do that, but maybe I don't do things that are important.
No.
Yes, you do. I don't block a particular time of the day, but if I am working on something and I feel like I need to concentrate, then I will close my door. I'll leave it ajar so that people can come in if they want to. But if it's something that I really feel the need to focus, then I will quite literally close the door.
Also, people, when Sheila closes the door on me, I just put my face in her window and I'm like, it doesn't work for me.
Do you see me? Yeah.
And focused that I am, I open the door because I want to play.
Nobody's ever going to want to work with me.
I do block time on my calendar like that. I'll put myself in a meeting if I need to focus in on something and I don't want to get interrupted. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter sometimes because even though my little block is red,
Sure,
they'll
sure.
still, are you busy?
Yeah.
No.
Aha.
I know, right?
I think the last thing is, are you guys feeling fulfilled in the other areas like what we touched on, kind of bringing it full circle to how we started the conversation, to growing in your professionalism and being able to try out, things that maybe aren't aligning with your job, like to be a mentor or to train up other people or to network and things like that. I will say in the organization that I work in, it has they provide so many options, little education seminars for us to learn more about the organization or learn how to grow our job or apply for a mentorship or network. There's a women's council. There's all these things we can do. And I like that right now. That I think that's where I am in midlife. I just want to kind of connect with other people. And I might connect with one and maybe four others might be duds, and that's okay with me. But I do feel really lucky that I'm working within an organization that offers those kinds of things. And they're just offers. They're not anything that you have to do, but you have the opportunity to do them. And I actually in the last year have done a lot. I've taken a lot of little different classes. One was a project management class, and I was like, go figure. Just little things. And I think you can just take that and file it away. And hopefully it helps make me a good steward of the organization and a good employee. And I'm hoping that I can then pour in to other people as well.
I'm very fortunate as well. So I do have a women's organization that I am associated with, and it's not just within my company. This is within all of metals. So not anything that's just like strictly manufacturing. I mean, it's anything to do with metals. You deal with scrap. You actually, make pipe, whatever. I've met a lot of women, fortunately, here in the last 4 years or so. And then we also have with my company a women's group. It's an ERG, which they've developed specifically so that we would have, because again, we are male dominated in the industry, but there are
Mm-hmm.
women who want to thrive and be successful. And you bring with that, again, all of your previous skill set with you and you continue to grow. As far as growth, I kind of find it a little difficult just because I don't think my boss knows what to do with me per se. So I'm having to find my own kind of network of individuals that can help expand my career in this industry as well as continue to grow in a leadership role. But that's been kind of a different scenario for me versus my previous employer who was constantly just, I think you should do this seminar. I think you should do this workshop. I think you should do this course. I'm having to do a lot of that research and finding the things on my own, which, I don't mind. it's kind of enjoyable so that I can just find my own rabbit hole of things to go do and learn and explore. I have my own goals set for myself and considering, I've got another like 20 something years of career life in me before I try to retire. So yeah, I want to make sure that I'm currently staying afloat, and especially with in the IT world, things are always evolving and changing in the blink of an eye. So things like AI, you got to take those things into consideration right now. And that's not only just for IT. I mean, that's every industry, every aspect of what we do today. It's constantly being advertised. So if we're not up to par, again, trying to make sure that we're staying ahead of ourselves and educating with whatever we can, we're going to find ourselves a little behind. And that's definitely not someplace I want to be or need to be right now because I need my job. I mean, I can't retire. To hit the lotto, there's no way for me out in the next 20 years. I got to make sure that I'm doing something to stay afloat. But I think we're also in that age range and, we're comfortable where we're at, right? I mean, Dana, like you said earlier, I remember struggling paycheck to paycheck and making sure that everything got done and paid for and taken care of in a certain time frame. And it was a struggle. And we don't necessarily have to feel that way anymore. I'm not living above my means. I know what I can and cannot do. And you make sure you have a little nest egg there because you're also starting to plan for the future, which is also putting us in a different kind of scenario versus our 20s. It's different. We'll see where it takes us from here, but it's also kind of like scary just because you don't know what the next day is going to hold. Not to scare you ladies, but I was reading something last week and I was like, oh crap. So I think all of us consider ourselves in that generation gap of things. And an article said, watch out, Gen Xers. Your Gen Zs are coming after your jobs because it's cheaper to hire 2 Gen Zs for the replacement of 1 Gen X.
Like, I am irreplaceable and everybody knows that.
Well, I would say the same.
Watch out. Watch out, people.
It makes you think. It makes you really think. And I'm like, well, dang it. Gotta stay on my game.
I don't believe it. I really don't believe it.
I don't either because in the next article I read was Gen Z is not making it.
Oh my gosh.
Each generation thinks that they are doing better than the one just previous, right? We do our best to pass the baton on to the next generation of workers. And we do have a different way that we work. We have a different way of approaching things, of building relationships. Maybe I don't know enough about their work ethic, and I will probably just cut this portion of the conversation out, but I don't see it.
I like it.
I really don't see it.
I enjoyed this conversation. It may have been a little too heavy for others, so for that, I apologize. I just want to remind everybody that we all are walking this walk in different stages, in the same stages, different experiences, same experiences, and working is one of them, and it is not always glamorous. So thank you for listening, for enduring the conversation with us. If you have anything to share, any good stories, we love a good story. Like how Sheila got moved because I talked to her too much. Feel free to share. Leave any comments, any suggestions of what you would love to hear more of, and we'll try to lighten the mood a little bit for next week. Until then, pause, please.